A Tale of a Muslim Girl and Her Infidel Lover. A novel by Dr. A. Ahmed. This is an intriguing epic story which resonates with love, resilience, courage, and sacrifice. Before we dive into the tapestry of the story, I would like to inform the reader that this novel is narrated in 3 books. Book 1. The beginning of forbidden love between a university Muslim student and her infidel professor. Copyrights. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer, who may quote brief paragraphs for a review to be printed in a public newspaper, general magazine, school journal, or university article. This novel is a work of fiction, but the entire story is based on a real life of a Muslim girl in Sudan. All names, characters, places, and events are either the product of the author's imagination or used literary. Any resemblance to actual people, living or dead, events or locales is merely coincidental. Chapter 46. When all doors are closed on her face. After she dropped the idea of looking for her lover's parents, Dr. Ibtihal began to think of a place to stay. The first idea that came to her mind was to find a hotel. She knows she cannot spend a single night in the streets of Khartoum without being attacked and robbed and raped by someone or some bad guys. She also understood that if the policemen find her while she is roaming all alone or sleeping in the street, they will not only gang rape her, but they will kill her as well to hide their crime. To avoid such evils, the lonely Dr. Ibtihal stopped a taxi driver and asked him to take her to a nearby hotel. The cabbie took her to the first hotel that came on his way. She was so exhausted and tired when she got out of the taxi and entered the hotel lobby. She walked to the front desk and inquired about a vacant room. "I want to book a room," she said politely to a young man who is sitting alone in the reception room. "Is it for you and your husband?" asked the receptionist. "No, sir, for me alone. I have not a husband." "You cannot stay alone in a hotel." "Why not?" "I am a grown-up woman, and I have money to pay for my stay at your hotel." "No, ma'am. It is against the Sudanese law. We are not allowed to keep a young woman unless her husband or father is accompanying her, and they have to produce official government-issued documents to prove their relationship." "Sir, I was a married woman but recently got separated from my husband." "Even if you are a married woman, and you are still living with your man, and having your marriage certificate, still, we are not allowed by the law to keep you if your lawful husband is not with you." "But sir, I have not another place to go. I am a stranger in this city." "Sorry, young lady, I cannot help you. If you let me stay just for one night, who is going to find out I have stayed in your hotel? I am prepared to pay you to double the amount that you are charging your other guests." The police do a random check every night. They check our register and sometimes knock on the guests' rooms. If they find a single woman living all alone in a room, they will arrest her as a prostitute or street hooker and shut down our hotel. But what shall I do? "Sorry, ma'am, I can do nothing to help you. Go and knock on people's doors and request them to keep you. No family will agree to shelter a woman they know nothing about her." "Sorry, ma'am, I have nothing else to tell you. If you are a man, then I will tell you to go and sleep in the mosque." Unfortunately, no watchman in any mosque is allowed to shelter and award a woman like you. The imam and other Muslim men believe the woman is an unclean and defiled creature, and her presence brings curse in the house of Allah. That is anti-feminist talk and misogynistic attitudes against women. That is the teaching of our infallible Prophet Muhammad, may the prayers and peace of Allah be upon him. The Muslim apostate woman Ibtihal wants to tell him, "Hell with your evil prophet," but she is scared he may either attack and kill her or call the cops on her and get her arrested as a blasphemous Muslim woman. So she kept quiet. "Okay, ma'am, go anywhere you want to go." I have not a place for you in this hotel. Consequently, the homeless Dr. Ibtihal left the hotel very discouraged and disappointed. She had never expected one day in her life she would be helpless and homeless in her own country. Every door had been closed in her face. She then went to the River Nile bank and sat on a bench. From where she was sitting, she could see the beautiful Hamad floating restaurant. The memories of those wonderful evenings and nights she spent with her handsome infidel Christian lover Dr. Samir in that restaurant have forced her tears to pour out of her beautiful eyes. Those hot tears have blocked her vision. She is longing for her Christian lover to be by her side and take her in his arms, kiss her sweet lips, and comfort her. She buried her face in her lap and began to weep bitterly. In those desperate moments, the lonely girl felt the hand of someone rest on her backside, and began to move to her buttocks and lustfully feel them. She has reacted with a scream, and panic and terror have paralyzed her entire body. It took a while before she could feel her frozen limbs begin to function again. She lifted her head, turned her face, and saw a man sitting close to her. He is a drunkard thug. She could smell the alcohol emitting from his repulsive mouth. She pushed his hand and stood up. The man also stood up and tried to hug her. She moved backward from him, and when he came after her, she ran away from him. Although there were many people in the place, still the frightened girl continued to run away until she crossed Nile Street. Dr. Ibtihal felt safe only after she crossed the street. She then stopped and looked all around her. The huge and ugly face of that man still continued to haunt her vision. At that moment, she felt as if a ghost came out of the River Nile and assaulted her. She reasoned out that if at this time of the day men would not hesitate to touch a young woman, what they would do to her if they found her all alone at night. Dr. Ibtihal thought it would be lesser evil for her to be raped by her own husband Tariq than by a stranger. She decided to go back and knock on the last door. She thought she would never return to it again. Then she stopped a taxi and asked its driver to take her to her former residence, where she was imprisoned and raped in the so-called House of Obedience as a rebellious wife. While her taxi driver was racing with other cars along the busy streets of the capital city, Dr. Ibtihal began to wonder how she could spend another year with her wicked and abusive husband. He was the one who locked her and her baby boy in the so-called House of Obedience and purposely starved them. He often unmercifully battered her, and many times cruelly raped her. He was the one who caused the untimely death of her firstborn baby boy Taha. Even though Dr. Ibtihal understood that she had not any other place to go to except the house of her evil husband Tariq. While she was in jail awaiting her trial, she received her divorce certificate from her ex-husband. But still, the homeless and helpless ex-wife had been forced to go to her ex-husband and beg him to take her back as his first Muslim wife, and allow her to live with him and his other two wives Saham and Badriya. Even if he refused to accept her as a wife, she decided to request him to shelter her as his cousin or like his sister. The taxi reached her ex-husband's house, and as soon as she paid her fare and came out of the taxi, the driver drove away and vanished. She remained standing alone. She hesitated for some time before she knocked on the door. It was the third wife of her ex-husband who opened the door. "It is the first wife Ibtihal," shouted Badriya when she saw the new visitor. Her ex-husband and his second wife came running to the door. "You dirty bitch," shouted Tariq, "how dare you come back here again? I have not other place to go to." "You dirty woman, go to the river and hide your shame in it," said the second wife Saham. "You have not a place here. You are not my wife any longer. I have publicly divorced you. Go to that dirty infidel Christian man Samir and stay with him. Many of your cousins are looking for you. Before they can find you and kill you, you must go to the river and drown yourself and hide your shame. I have done no crime or brought shame to anyone by falling in love with a decent Christian man who is a successful doctor. Then go and live with that fucking uncircumcised infidel Christian man without marriage. Can I stay here for a few days until I find another shelter? You can never ever enter this house again. You had run away with that infidel man and put all of us in shame. I am sorry, my cousin Tariq, please forgive me and let me stay at least one night. The ex-husband Tariq spat on the face of his former Muslim wife Ibtihal, and then shut the door on her face. Then the homeless Dr. Ibtihal felt as if he had thrown a bucket of cold water on her exhausted body. Chapter 47. The Marriage of the Martyr. When all doors are shut on her face, Dr. Ibtihal decided to obey the deep voice of the invisible woman that told her to go to the south of Sudan. She has no clue how to go to the south and look for the parents of her imprisoned Christian lover. She has not much knowledge of her country Sudan. The only cities she had seen apart from her birthplace are Khartoum and Kassala. She has not traveled to any city in the northern, western, or southern regions of Sudan. Whatever she heard about the south of Sudan is negative information and scary stories. She heard the south is a place where the majority of the people are Christians who hate Muslims, and especially the Arab Sudanese. Before she was born, the southern rebels were fighting against the northern army. She heard many young men from her city were killed by the southern rebels in the jihad war against the infidel Christians. Well, it is the right time to leave the story of Dr. Ibtihal for a while, and tell the reader some information about those young men who got killed in the south, and why they were killed. The civil war between the south and the north is going on since the time the British left Sudan on January 1, 1956. The civil war was started as a result of the northern Sudanese Arabs who are dominating and racially discriminating against the African Sudanese. That civil war was converted into jihad, or holy war, in 1989. Ever since the Khartoum Islamic government declared jihad against the southern Christian rebels, many young Muslim men from the northern, western, eastern, and central provinces of Sudan joined the Sudanese army as volunteer fighters. Those voluntary fighters are known as mujahideen. 99% of those mujahideen did not join the fight because they are patriots, but for the great rewards they believe they will get in the hereafter when they die as martyrs and go to paradise. Those mujahideen love death and hate life. Their heart's desires are to die as martyrs during their jihad against the infidels of the south of Sudan. Why should a young man love to die? We can put this question in a way to involve those young Muslim boys in the Middle East and North Africa who wrap their bodies with explosive devices and go and blow off their bodies into bits and pieces. Why should young Muslim men do such a crazy thing? The answer to that question can be found inside the pages of the Quran and the hadiths of the Prophet Muhammad. They are promised in those pages that each male Muslim martyr shall be wedded with 72 virgin girls in paradise. Those girls remain virgins forever. According to a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, that as soon as the dick of a Muslim man has fucked the pussy of a virgin of paradise, she automatically returns virgin girl again. The Quran said that the virgin of paradise has never been raped up by any human being or jinni. Those virgins are not even human beings. They are sublime female creatures who are created especially for the sexual pleasure and entertainment of Muslim males. Every time the Muslim man deflowers her pussy and breaks her hymen through sexual intercourse, she returns virgin all over again. The Quran described their beauty in remarkable ways. They are described as diamonds and have large and beautiful eyes. Because the Arab man loves the woman who has a big ass, the books of hadiths describe in great detail the buttocks of those virgins. One peculiar thing about the Virgin of Paradise is that she will neither menstruate nor urinate nor defecate. The man cannot make her pregnant if he fucks her virgin pussy 1,000 times and more. Having those crazy ideas and fancy and false promises in their minds, those young Muslim men are always in a great hurry to die or kill themselves, and go to paradise to enjoy those virgins and the rivers of wine. When those mujahideen died during their jihad war against the infidels in the south of Sudan, they will be so much honored by their Muslim families. The family of a martyred mujahid will consider their son to become a groom and celebrate his marriage with the 72 virgins in paradise. His mother will rejoice and shout for joy when she receives the good news that her son had been killed in jihad in the south, and he has gone to paradise to celebrate Ers al-Shahid, or the wedding of the martyr in heaven with his 72 brides. In their fighting in the south, those mujahideen are known for their brutalities and atrocities. They are known for their hideous war crimes such as killing, raping, robbing, pillaging, burning, and enslaving. Those war crimes are usually committed against non-combatant Southerners. The Muslim mujahideen are more ruthless and dangerous than the notorious Janjaweed of Darfur or the fighters of ISIS in Syria and Iraq. The reader now can know why Dr. Ibtihal is scared to go to a place where her northern Sudanese Muslim people are considered to be rapists, robbers, and murderers. Chapter 48. The Hazardous Voyage. Finally, when Dr. Ibtihal has been left with no other alternative, she decided to take the risk and travel to the south of Sudan. She knows the capital city of the south is called Juba. In fact, Juba is the second largest city in Sudan. Dr. Ibtihal decided to begin her search in Juba. She went to the Sudan airline office and inquired about which flight she could book for Juba. She has been told that due to the jihad war against the southern rebels, they have stopped flying any aircraft to the south. Then they informed her the only way she can travel to the south is through a train, and then a ship. Dr. Ibtihal went to the Khartoum General Railway Station to inquire about which train could take her to the south. She came to know that no train could go there. She should travel by train to Kosti City, and then she must get the ship, which will sail her to Juba City. The entire trip takes many days. At first, she is afraid to take such a long trip all alone. She has not traveled before without a male relative accompanying her. When she came to the capital city, her father came with her. Whenever she traveled back and forth from her hometown Gadaref to Khartoum, her father was there with her. However, that day she had been forced by her circumstances to decide to venture all alone into such an unknown destination. As a single young woman, she can neither rent a place nor stay in a hotel or a mosque. There are so many dangers and hardships that came on her way during her long voyage to the south. Some narrators of her life story went into describing those difficulties that came in her way until the story lost interest. There is the possibility that the reader may get lost in those details and therefore he loses the flow of the tale. To avoid such a risk, I preferred to mention the most important of those hardships in one chapter, and go after that directly to her arrival in Juba City, which is the main city in the south. Dr. Ibtihal could not be able to travel to Kosti City on that same night because she missed the train, which left at 10:30 a.m. She waited all night sitting on a bench at the Khartoum General Railway Station. It is common practice that poor passengers spend days and nights waiting for their connecting trains. The railway stations in Sudan always teem with all kinds of crooks such as thieves, rascals, teasers, and sexually frustrated men who are jobless and therefore cannot afford to marry women or find girls to love them. Luckily, Dr. Ibtihal had not been robbed or sexually harassed during her sleep at night. She fought with her all night long. She spent her night falling in and out of sleep. Early in the morning she bought her ticket and waited for her train to arrive. She had her breakfast at the railway cafeteria. She then purchased some food and took it with her for her long trip. The train that the homeless girl Dr. Ibtihal boarded is known as the Nyala train. This train travels between the capital city of Sudan to the capital city of the Darfur region. It is the most crowded train in the whole world. That morning, when the Nyala train began its trip, it was filled with passengers and their luggage and animals. Even so, in every village and town it halted, the number of its passengers kept multiplying. In Sudan, passengers are allowed to sit anywhere on the train. When every passage and door is stuffed with travelers, the new passengers are allowed to climb on the top of the train roof. Those upstairs passengers, what they call them, have to endure the heat, dust, and rain. Sometimes a passenger may get washed away by the rain or carried away by the wind. The passenger may fall asleep, and when he wakes up, he will find himself flying in the air and landing on his neck in a jungle full of wild beasts, or in the middle of the raging waves of the Blue Nile, or White Nile, and his body is swallowed up alive by a hungry crocodile. The Nyala train has 4 places for sitting. To travel in first class or second class, you need to book your ticket 2 months in advance. To get a seat in the third class you require at least a couple of weeks booking beforehand. The fourth class is the worst place. Its windows are broken, its doors are without covers, and its washrooms are as filthy as hell. Its lights are all either broken or stolen. All kinds of bad activities are openly done in this class. Smoking cigarettes, smoking bango, drinking liquor, taking drugs, stealing, pickpocketing, teasing women, and sometimes raping a woman at night take place in the fourth class. Sometimes, a young woman could be gang-raped even in broad daylight. Not knowing all those risks, Dr. Ibtihal began her hazardous trip in the fourth compartment. There are no special or reserved places for ladies on the train. The bench on which she is sitting is supposed to be occupied by 3 passengers, but when the train covered 2 hours' journey, more than 7 fat female passengers stuffed themselves by force on that bench. As the train continued to move through the Al Jazeera region, the available space between the bench on which she is sitting and the one in front of her is crowded with standing passengers. Fortunately, she had booked a window seat. Otherwise, she would have been suffocated to death by then. In that miserable condition, Dr. Ibtihal continued her hazardous journey, while the slow train continued to crawl all day and all night. The Nyala train is the slowest means of transportation in the world. Many unpleasant things happened to the pretty and young woman Dr. Ibtihal during that difficult trip. Her privacy was violated many times. Her body was touched, and her breasts and big buttocks were fondled against her wish by the hands of many lustful males. The room in which she travels has no lights. She could neither see nor know who was touching her. She just kept pushing and struggling to defend her body all night long. It would have been easier for her to spend that night fighting with wild beasts in the jungle than with those human beasts. She could hardly sleep or move a limb. The homeless Dr. Ibtihal endured all those hardships for 2 days and 2 nights. On the morning of the 3rd day, the Nyala train arrived at Kasti railway station. She is extremely lucky to reach the city without being robbed of her money or raped by someone. She is so tired and exhausted when she forced her way out of that train of robbers and rapists. She could hardly walk on her feet. She is so exhausted and hungry. She went to the railway cafeteria and had her food. She felt a bit refreshed when she ate that freshly cooked meal. After that, she took a taxi from the railway station to Kasti port. She became so disappointed when she came to know that the ship travels twice a week to Juba. She has to wait 2 days before she can board the next ship. She does not know where she could spend 2 days in a city she has never been to before. She has also come to know that she can expect an excruciating 10-day train and bus journey, or a boat which can take 7 to 10 days, between Kasti to Juba. Notwithstanding, she booked her ticket by faith, and trusted the Lord Jesus Christ to provide her accommodation. This time, she booked a private room. She paid more money, but at least she knows she will be alone in her room during those 10 days of traveling down to the south. Dr. Ibtihal dragged her exhausted feet, and left the port, and ventured into the streets of Kasti, seeking shelter for her 2 days. She tried to stay in a hotel, but everywhere she went they refused to check her in for the same restriction she was told in Khartoum. No hotel is ready to book her in without a husband, or a father or a brother accompanying her. She began to feel so sick. She is feeling feverish and experiencing nausea. She went to a pharmacy and bought some over-the-counter medicine. One of the pharmacists is a young lady. The homeless girl Ibtihal requested the pretty pharmacist for a private talk. The lovely pharmacist welcomed her request in an exceptionally friendly manner. "I am a stranger and I don't have any shelter in this city," said Dr. Ibtihal in a low voice that no one could hear except the pretty pharmacist. "I have arrived today in this city. I am an alone girl who is traveling to the south, but I have been told my ship would leave in a couple of days. I have tried to stay in a hotel, but as a single young woman, without a father or a brother, no hotel agreed to accommodate me. I need shelter for 2 days. I am ready to pay for my stay." "What is your name and where have you come from?" asked the lovely girl. "My name is Shadia Ahmed. I am from the capital city," she purposely lied. "Why are you traveling alone all the way to the south?" "I am going to the south for especially important personal matters. But I cannot tell you what it is." "Well, Shadia, is there anything to do with running away from home because of love or pregnancy?" "Yes, because of love, but I am not pregnant." "Where is your lover?" "He is in prison." "Are you or your lover involved in any crime?" "Neither my lover nor I had done any crime except we fall in love with each other. Because I am an Arab girl and my boyfriend is an African southerner, we are persecuted by my family and condemned by the Sharia court. I got scourged 53 lashes by the police, and my lover had been sentenced to 100 lashes and 1 year imprisonment." "Is your lover in south of Sudan?" "He is in prison in Khartoum city. I am going to the south to meet his parents. He advised me to go and stay with his parents until he is released from prison and joins me in the south after a year." "Okay, Shadia, I appreciate your honesty. I am also a young woman, and I can understand what love is. I will keep you in my house for 2 days with one condition." "What is that single condition?" "Never mention your love affair to anyone in my house, especially my parents. I will tell my family you were my classmate. They should know that we studied together at Al Jazeera University. You had come to Kasti City to visit your auntie, and I met you by chance when you came to purchase medicine from our pharmacy. Then I requested you to come and stay for 2 days at my house. Thank you so much. My name is Nadia Ahmed. I am honored to meet you, Nadia." Chapter 49. The arrival of Dr. Ibtihal at Juba City. The 2 days in the house of the pharmacist Nadia went by for the homeless girl like 2 hours. The classmate of Nadia spent most of those 2 days sleeping in her room. Nadia works from morning to evening. When she returns home, she just wants to eat and sleep. She hardly sits and talks to her lovely guest. The friend of Nadia puzzled her parents and 2 sisters. She did not spend a single hour talking to them or to her friend. The 2 sisters of Nadia every now and then peep into their sister's room to see whether the beautiful visitor is awake so that they could chat with her, but every time they got disappointed when they saw her deeply sleeping like a log without movements. One of them remarked sarcastically, "This girl came here to sleep or socialize with us." One time, the sleepy Dr. Ibtihal heard her remark, but she ignored it. There is nothing more important to mention about Dr. Ibtihal's stay in her acquaintance's house. On the 3rd day, Nadia and her 2 sisters escorted her to Kasti port. Dr. Ibtihal thanked Nadia 100 times before she boarded her ship. She was a different person when she entered the ship. She was dressed up in one of the loveliest dresses of Nadia. The parents of her new girlfriend were puzzled when they realized that the classmate of their daughter came to their house with one single filthy dress on her body, and went with a small bag containing some of the dresses and shoes of their daughter. But none of them said anything due to the fear of hurting the feelings of their daughter and her girlfriend. As soon as the ship began to sail down south, Dr. Ibtihal began to weep when she remembered the situation in which she left Khartoum, and the kind treatment she received in Kasti by Nadia Ahmed. She thanked God and offered a prayer of prosperity and success in life for Nadia and her family. While the ship was emerging out of the city, Dr. Ibtihal began to worry about what was waiting for her ahead. In those days, the South and the North were like two countries in one land. Of course, later the South became a separate African country, while the North remained an Arab country. The fleeing northern girl Ibtihal is sitting alone in a small room. There is no one to bother her. She does not have regrets that she is not going to have company for 10 days. She wants and needs to be all alone. She wants to feel that she is not part of that dark world where the woman is treated like a dangerous creature that if she is not controlled and tamed properly, she would bring the downfall of her family. A world in which the honor of the family is located between the legs of the woman, and if that taboo part of her body is violated, it brings the cruel murder of the girl and the downfall of her Muslim family. Dr. Ibtihal wondered for how long she must suffer and struggle to achieve her heart desire by sharing the same roof with her infidel Christian lover. Would that desire be fulfilled in such a conservative and primitive society? She doubted that possibility. She has no idea what had happened to her lover in that death concentration camp, which is euphemistically called a prison. Did he survive those 100 brutal lashes? She offered a prayer of safety and protection for her lover. She also offered a prayer of guidance at her unknown destination. Dr. Ibtihal's trip from Kasti to Juba is 1,000 times better and easier than her hellish journey which she went through while she was traveling in that train of death from Khartoum to Kasti. She locked herself most of the time in her small room. She ventured out of her room only during meals times. Most of the passengers spoke broken Arabic, which was hard for her to grasp. The ship was divided into classes like the Nyala train. There was first class where Dr. Ibtihal booked her room. It had a second class where 4 people share a small room. It also had a third class where around 30 people sat on long benches facing one another. The fourth class was located on the deck. It was an area situated on board. The fourth class passengers had not roofs over their heads. They had to use their clothes to protect themselves from the rain or sun rays. It was so crowded and noisy that Dr. Ibtihal could hear from her room the sound of the passengers. For 10 days and nights, she did not bother about going around to explore the ship or make friends. Those 10 days had passed slowly, while her mind was occupied with millions of thoughts and worries. On the 10th day morning, the ship had arrived in Juba port. Then Dr. Ibtihal carried her small bag and entered the new unknown world. She has no idea where to turn. Should she wave her hand to a taxi and ask the driver to take her wherever he wants to take her? Should she go to the police station and ask them to help her in locating the Christian family of her imprisoned lover, or request them to keep her in jail? Or should she just roam aimlessly in the busy streets of Juba until her feet take her to nowhere? Upon her arrival, the fleeing dissident princess Dr. Ibtihal is amazed by the vast differences between life in Khartoum and Juba. Everyone in Juba is an African Sudanese. She could hardly see any Arab Sudanese. One thing that attracted her attention and puzzled her is the way the women in the streets of Juba are putting their clothes on. No one of them dressed up in an Islamic dress. So many young women put on trousers and shirts like boys. Some young girls are putting on short pants. She also could see girls and boys holding hands and walking freely without being bothered by the police. Therefore, Dr. Ibtihal felt as if she had come to another country. While she was standing and looking at the crowd, a taxi stopped in front of her. "Are you looking for a cheap hotel, oh young woman?" inquired the African cabbie. "No, thank you, sir." The cab driver drove his taxi away. Princess Ibtihal suddenly began to wonder why the taxi driver asked her whether she was looking for a hotel or not. How did he know that she is a newcomer in the city? She does not take long to understand why the taxi driver recognized her as a stranger. She is dressed up in an Islamic dress, and looked different in her reddish color. The second question that puzzled her is why the taxi driver offered to take her to a cheap hotel. Did he not know that in Sudan a young woman is not allowed to stay in a hotel without a close relative or her husband? Dr. Ibtihal answered that question by saying to herself, maybe the laws in the south are different from the draconian and rigid and anti-feminist Sharia laws of the north. Arriving at that possibility, the homeless Arab girl immediately stopped a cab and asked its driver to take her to a nearby hotel. When the taxi reached the hotel, she paid her fare and walked like an air hostess entering a beautiful hotel lobby. "Can I check in for one night?" "Yes, you can, ma'am," replied a young pretty receptionist. Dr. Ibtihal could not believe her ears when she got the green light to stay in the hotel. Before the lovely black receptionist may change her mind, the fugitive northern girl took the key, hurried to her room, and fell asleep. "Can I check in for one night?" "Yes, you can, ma'am," replied a young pretty African receptionist. Dr. Ibtihal could not believe her ears when she got the green light to stay in the hotel. Before the lovely black receptionist may change her mind, the fugitive northern girl took the key, hurried to her room, and fell asleep on a huge queen-size bed. Chapter 50. A visit to a church on Sunday. Dr. Ibtihal spent her first day in Juba, in an exceptionally beautiful hotel. She spent most of the time on a comfortable bed. The fancy hotel is a bit expensive according to her budget. She made good savings during her work at Soba Hospital. She withdrew some cash from her account before she left the capital city of Sudan. She is not sure whether there is a branch for the Bank of Khartoum in Juba or not. On the next morning, she inquired at the front desk about the Bank of Khartoum. She was told in Juba there is a branch for every bank in Sudan. The news made her extend her stay in the beautiful hotel. On the following morning, the dissident princess had a friendly talk with a pretty Denka girl who came to clean her room. She was one of the housekeepers of the hotel. "Hi, miss," said Ibtihal in English. "Hi, ma'am," responded the Denka girl. "My name is Shadia Ahmed." "Nice to meet you, Miss Shadia. What is your name?" "My name is Susan John." "Susan, I have come to Juba to look for the parents of my African boyfriend, but I have not an idea where they live. I am not sure whether they are living in this city or not." "Ma'am, this is going to be difficult for you to find his family in such a cosmopolitan city as Juba." "I know that, but I think I can start my search in a church." "Do you go to any church?" "Yes, I go to church." "Can you take me to your church?" "Yes, I can do that." "What time do you go to church?" "Our church service starts at 10 o'clock in the morning." "Okay, I will be ready by 9 a.m. on Sunday." "For sure, ma'am, I will come and take you to our church. I will pay for the taxi, and after the church service is over, I will take you for lunch in any restaurant you choose." "Exceptionally good, ma'am, and it is so kind of you to offer to take me for lunch after church. I consider myself so blessed girl to meet in our hotel a loving lady like you." "Thanks, Susie." Dr. Ibtihal is exceedingly happy to meet the kind housekeeping girl Susan. Therefore, she gave her some cash before the southern girl left her room. It was on Friday morning when Dr. Ibtihal talked to Susan John. She had to wait for 2 days for Susie to come on Sunday morning and accompany her to her church. She spent those 2 days going around the big city. She noticed there is a huge difference between life in Khartoum and Juba. The two cities seem to be in different countries with vastly opposing cultures. She inquired at the front desk for places of entertainment in Juba. The receptionist gave her a long list of places to visit during the day, and nightclubs and movie theaters to go to at night. The fleeing Princess Ibtihal had not idea what a nightclub was. She took a taxi, and when she reached a tourist area, she entered a discotheque on a Friday evening. She is shocked when she saw young girls and men drinking alcohol and dancing together. All the young ladies in that place smoke cigarettes. They are dressed half naked. Some men are kissing their girlfriends, and some couples are doing some stuff no decent people would do in a public place. For that reason, the disco club for the former Muslim girl Ibtihal appeared as a brothel and tavern rather than a nightclub for entertainment. Immediately, she turned her back and fled out of that place. She could not believe that such a place is in Sudan. She left the nightclub, went to a movie theater, and watched a nice English movie. She had never been to a movie theater alone before. It was the first movie she saw alone on the big silver screen. Therefore, it was a wonderful experience for her. After that, the lonely princess spent the rest of her time sitting in her hotel room watching TV. It was on her third day in Juba when Dr. Ibtihal accompanied Susan John to her church. Susan's church is one of the most crowded churches in Juba City. The newly converted girl Dr. Ibtihal had not an idea what the church would look like inside. She also had not knowledge what people do when they go to their churches. Although she became a Christian, she had not been to any church yet. Coincide. She saw a church only from outside in her city Gadaref. She remembered her late father, who was the imam of the biggest mosque in her city, told her to spit on the church when they walked by it. He also told her whenever she passed by a Christian church in the future, she should spit 7 times on it. The building of that church was so old and in ruins. It was the only church in her city. It was built at the time of British rule. It was located in the main market. Its walls were broken. In places of those broken walls, there was fencing made of grass and used as covering to close those holes. She remembered seeing Muslim men standing in rows and urinating on the fencing of that church as if it were a public toilet for guys. Notwithstanding, when they reached Susan's church, Princess Ibtihal was amazed by the beauty of the church. She felt as if she was a beautiful queen entering the palace of a handsome king, with her lovely entourage Susan. The church hall was so spacious that it could accommodate 1,000 worshippers. She looked everywhere and admired everything she saw, the massive building, the marvelous decoration, and the beautiful paintings. The worshippers were men and women, young and old. They all put on beautiful clothes and appeared to her as if they were in a wedding hall or celebrating one of their feasts. The physician Ibtihal had also never stepped a foot inside a mosque. Since she was a young girl, her father told her that young women are not allowed to go to the mosque. The Prophet Muhammad advised women to pray only at their homes. Everything was new for the Muslim apostate girl. Seeing the young men and women standing side by side and worshipping together was something incomprehensible to her. She had never expected one day she would see men and women gathering together in a place of worship. She was taught that the woman's presence in a place of worship was a great temptation for pious men. Moreover, the Prophet Muhammad said, if the woman passes in front of the praying man, she annuls his prayer. Those young pretty African girls. Therefore, she thought the presence of those young pretty African girls inside the church had already invalidated the prayers of all those Christian men. She also remembered the hadith in which the Prophet Muhammad said, dog, donkey, and woman will annul the man's prayer whenever they pass ahead of him, break off between the praying man and the Qibla, or the direction for prayer. Also she was learned that the Prophet said, the woman is a wara, which means bare naked. When she goes outside the house, the devil takes charge of her. And yet again she heard that the Prophet said, when a woman comes, she comes in the form of Satan, and when she retreats in the form of the devil. Despite having those misogynistic teachings in her mind, on that Sunday morning, Dr. Ibtihal doubted the truthfulness of those teachings about women. She could see with her own eyes that Christian men and women singing, dancing, and praying together, and no one bothered to look lustfully toward the other. Every man was closing his eyes and raising his hands and praying to his God. She herself felt a strong presence of God in that church. She too closed her eyes and began to thank and praise the Lord Jesus Christ. When the praise and worship were over, she saw a man come forward and began to speak. She was happy to hear that man was quoting from the Christian Injil, or Gospel, many sayings of Jesus Christ. She concluded that the speaker was most probably the priest of the church. While she was in her city, she saw a priest of a Catholic church while he was walking on the street, and putting on black clothes, and looked extremely gloomy. But in this church, the priest was happy and joyful. When the pastor ended his sermon, she saw the worshippers began to shake hands with each other. Some women came and greeted her in a friendly and loving way. She was surprised that although some of them identified her as an Arab Muslim girl, none of them showed any hatred towards her. On the contrary, they told her they were so happy to have her in their church. Then the visiting Arab girl requested the housekeeping girl of the hotel to introduce her to the priest of the church. Susan said to Ibtihal, "We call him our pastor because he is our shepherd, and we are his sheep. We are also the pasture of God." She then took her to her pastor and introduced her to him. "Pastor James, meet my Arab friend, Shadia Ahmed. She is a newcomer in Juba, and a guest in the hotel where I work," said Susan politely to her shepherd. "Welcome, my Arab daughter. I am so happy you have come to visit your sisters and brothers today," said Pastor James very happily. "Thank you, sir. How can I help you, my daughter? I have come all the way from Khartoum to this city to look for some people." "Welcome, my daughter. Consider yourself first, you have found your big family in this church. Now tell me whom you have come to look for." "I have come to look for the parents of my southern boyfriend." "Where is your friend now?" "He had been unjustly condemned and incarcerated in a prison in Khartoum City. He had done no crime except he fell in love with me. Because I am an Arab girl, and he is an African man, everybody had opposed our friendship. The Sharia court gave me twice 53 lashes, and sentenced my lover to 100 lashes, and 1 year imprisonment." Dr. Ibtihal spoke those words while she was weeping. "Don't cry, my daughter. The just God doesn't distinguish between Arabs and Africans. His children are equal in his eyes, regardless of their color, race, and any other social status. Please, sir, pray for the safety of my lover." "I will pray for him for sure, my daughter. Now tell me, what is his name?" "His name is Dr. Samir Peter." "Do you mean Dr. Samir Peter Deng?" shouted Pastor James. "I know him as Dr. Samir Peter only." "Are you the Princess Ibtihal Taha Al-Amin?" "Yes, I am." "My goodness. I am sorry, sir. I had lied to you about my real name for my sake." "Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord, my beloved daughter. Every day I go to pray with Dr. Samir's parents for their son's safety. Only God knows how much his parents are suffering and crying for him. How can I meet his Christian family? They had just left the church. Will they accept me? Are they mad with me because I put their son in trouble with the law? Who told you to come here to look for his parents?" "The Lord Jesus told me to go and look for his parents in the south of Sudan." "If the Lord had sent you here, who can go against his will?" "My daughter, Samir's parents are praying for you more than they are praying for their son. They are worried about your safety and the safety of their son. My daughter Ibtihal, consider yourself have come to your own people and home." "Thanks be to God," shouted Dr. Ibtihal happily.